Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Wednesday morning, progressives. Yes, it is Wednesday. Welcome to the November 20th, 24 edition of Choose Views here on WCPT, 773-763-9278. You guys can text us at that number if you don't call, but certainly give us a holler because we'd love to chat with you. We know we've got some of our great conversations that we have here thanks to you guys. So catch us on Facebook Live and TuneIn Radio as well as Twitter Stream, iHeartRadio, and you can email me, and I've gotten your emails. I'm a little bit behind there, guys. I always like to let you know I'm getting to them. Sometimes I can't get to all of them in one day, but I will definitely get caught up in the next couple of days. I promise you that. And sometimes it takes the weekend to sit down and just nail them and get back to you guys. But you can email me, of course, at richard@wcpt820.com. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's where you can catch Joan Esposito live, local, and progressive. And oh, yes, me, Choose Views. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. Edwin Eisendrath with the big picture. And I got an article I'm going to talk about later in the show that Edwin had over at heartlandsignal.com. And most definitely Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. Out Chicago and our other shows. So make sure to check us out there. Had a great opportunity to meet with a friend for dinner last night. My wife and I, we talked a little bit about some friends of hers that have started to follow the show and listen and so forth. And I just reminded that you can go and catch if you don't get up at this crazy o'clock time in the morning to listen to our show, you can follow us at the other outlets, and particularly go to heartlandsignal.com. You can go to the WCPT website, and of course, my page is there, and you can see the other shows and the other interviews and all that. So check us out there and share lots of stuff, because that's the way to spread the message, and that's one of the things that a shout out to my good friend Christina, who was so eloquent last night in her comments about what's happened and how we have to go forward. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about today is some of the go forward. Let's pin down some of the craziness, which we try to do every day. And then talk a little bit about the go forward. Got some really interesting clips that I want you guys to hear this morning that I think you will appreciate. And speaking of clips, I know that I've got a few to get emails to respond to. So like I said, I haven't forgotten. It's just, getting to them each day and making sure you guys get the material you request, from clips to things that I may read that you guys want to have in your arsenal to use when you're talking to folks out there. And that's where we're going to be. We're going to be talking to the knuckleheads, and that's part of one of the things I want to do with every show is provide you with day-to-day and then give you some of those, some tools so you can bop them upside politically bop them upside the head. No, don't want anybody running around hitting folks, literally hitting people, but bopping some people upside the head with the political information that we all like to share. Before I get to the Choose Views news, I do want to let you guys know of just something that the family meeting is promoting a little bit, and something that I meant to read out to you guys yesterday, but I'll get it to you now. Today is November 20th, and your participation will give life to three fellow West Siders. It's called the Voice. The Voice newspapers are promoting another community saving blood drive, this time at Malcolm X College. And that's taking place today, November 20th, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Malcolm X College. It's a way for you to be able to donate blood. And if that's something that you can do, then you can go by the college today between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Here in Chicago. So just wanted to let you guys know that. you can call the college first, and they may have more specific information as you get if you head over in that direction. But if you're in the area, you can certainly reach out to them. And one of the support members, George Rico, it can be reached at jrico2 at Versity, VERSITI.org. So just wanted to remind you guys of that in terms of one of the things that's happening in the community that you can lean into. So there you go. All right, fellow progressives, let's talk about some things that are happening in the Choose Views news world. As we get closer to Thanksgiving, guess what? The records are being set. Nearly 80 million Americans are expected to travel over the Thanksgiving holiday this year, and that's a big number. It's a new record, by the way, according to AAA. The projected total is 1.7 million more than last year's holiday travel total during that period. While a vast majority will drive, major airlines are also preparing for record passenger numbers between Tuesday the 26th and Monday, December 2nd. That's despite a 9% increase in the average airfare over last year, per booking app Hopper. Welcome news for drivers. The national average of gas price dipped below $3 a gallon for the first time since 2021. Henry, I have a question. Did Joe Biden raise the price of airfare? I don't think so. But has Joe Biden gotten any credit for gas prices going down? I don't think so. I wonder if our mainstream media is not doing their job, and rather than doing their job, they're running down and sticking their head up the behind of the president-elect, Joe and Mika. Yeah, that was a slam to both of you. Let me keep moving. White-collar recession hits tech. The job market might be holding steady overall, but for those seeking positions in sectors like tech, HR, marketing, and consulting, quote-unquote, white-collar recession, and hiring appears to be hitting full steam, according to Business Insider. It found that hiring across a variety of tech roles, including engineering and project management, was down more than 20% this past August compared to going back to August of 2018. And that's a little misleading in my opinion, because that's prior to the pandemic. But in healthcare services, one of the fields that they are seeing a little bit of hiring increase, which is great. And even with a glut of candidates, open positions are being filled more slowly, per hiring software company Greenhouse. The Department of Justice is urging Google to sell their sale of Chrome. The Justice Department plans to ask a court to order Google to divest its Chrome web browser, according to Bloomberg. The department also will petition federal judge Amit Mehta, who in August declared Google's search engine is a monopoly, to mandate actions concerning artificial intelligence and the Android mobile operating system. In his ruling, which Google plans to appeal, Meta said Google violated antitrust laws related to online search and search text ads. Chrome, the world's most used internet browser, commands about 61% of the U.S. market share. Experts believe it could fetch up to a $20 billion sale this year. Boeing's cutting more than 2,500 jobs. Boeing is laying off more than 2,500 workers, the company confirmed in a new federal filing. The cuts in Washington, Oregon, South Carolina, and Missouri are part of the aerospace giant's push to cut 10% of its global workforce, or about 17,000 jobs, as it looks to recover from a difficult year. Several hundred engineers and production workers were included in the layoffs, despite CEO Kelly Ottberg's vow not to take people off production or out of engineering labs. Now, here's the thing about these types of reductions, and when we look at this upcoming administration, airlines need to be staffed with people. They need to have folks working, engineers, all the people that make sure that those big things get up and down safely. Deregulation. This is the problem that we, in the future we could have with a lot of deregulation with this new cabinet. And so this is one of those why you stayed at home and your vote didn't matter conversations. It did matter. It does matter. Amazon Music bets on audiobooks. Amazon Music Unlimited subscribers can now listen to one free audiobook every month, part of the push to turn the platform into the premier #1 audio entertainment destination. Customers won't be able to keep the books, which they can if they subscribe to Amazon's Audible service. So you got to pay to play, basically, for a long period of time. But Amazon hopes the offering will help it compete with Spotify, which started giving its customers audio access books last year. Amazon's option will undercut Spotify's in price at $10.99 a month versus $11.99. So there you go, $1 cheaper. And then last but not least, Blackstone buys into Jersey Mike's private equity group. Blackstone says it has reached a deal to acquire a majority stake in the sandwich chain Jersey Mike's Subs. Terms were not disclosed, but the deal would reportedly value the privately owned chain at $8 billion. Mike's has about 3,000 locations throughout the country, and it's one of the fastest growing dining chains. So that's not the worst thing in the world. They compete pretty strongly with Subway. And I've had a good Jersey Mike's sandwich. They're not that bad. I like the way they let you kind of dress it up the way you want it, just like Subway. So every now and again, a little break isn't a bad idea. So there you go, guys. Some Choose Views news this morning. And if you're going to be one that's interested in donating blood, you can make your way over to Malcolm X College today between 3 and 7 p.m. And they'll give you the details on all that. Just wanted to kind of make that little public service announcement. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. Guys, we'll be right back. We'll get your calls. Look forward to talking to you this morning.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Henry and I are yucking it up in here about bouncing around and hanging out with our families, so that's always fun. So listen, one of our followers, one of our listeners, and persons who I really appreciate their work, Media Busters, posted something that I thought was really interesting. And it's the 10 Commandments of what it's kind of like to be a progressive. And I thought this might be something that you guys could appreciate. And it's kind of put together by our good friend Sue Cohen in Maryland. Sue in Rockville, as you've heard her on the Stephanie Miller Show. And she's called in here a few times. And we'll probably have Sue on before the year is out. However, she talks about the 10 Commandments, and they are empathy, critical thinking, ethical development, peace and social justice, service and participation, altruism, humility, environmentalism, global awareness, responsibility. Wow. I don't even know what to say behind that, but it's powerful stuff. That, name. If you look at this is a template. This is like the center of a shirt for what it's like to be a progressive, thought-leading, forward-thinking person in this country. And those 10 items, I could not lay them over any of the Republicans that are elected on a local level. I shouldn't say any. There are some local elected Republicans. As the mayor of Tucson would be one. There's a few others that off the top of my head I can't call their names, but I can kind of see their faces. But the former lieutenant governor of Georgia would come to mind. Liz Cheney, okay, Adam Kinzinger, and a few others. But some of the loudmouths, the knuckleheads, the put the crack pipe down, that's a phrase I use a lot. I think I took that. I don't want to get in trouble here, but that's a line from one of the early Bad Boy movies. But in any event, the loudmouth, chaos-loving Republicans on any level, by and large, with the exceptions of some of the people that I just mentioned, and I know there are others, couldn't ascribe to these, couldn't lay down or template themselves with these. And I'll read them again. Empathy, critical thinking, ethical development, peace and social justice, service and participation, altruism, humility, environmentalism, global awareness, and responsibility. I couldn't lay those over 99% of Republicans that are currently in office on any level. Seriously. And that 1% is, maybe it's 2. But I would say confidently, and I hate to say it confidently, but confidently say that you couldn't put that over the majority of Republicans in an elected office. And you couldn't put that over, but you could put that over 80%, if not better, 90% of Democrats who are elected to office. And those who are Democratic voters, progressive liberal Democratic voters. You could probably overlay that on a large part of what we represent. And I saw this and I thought, I want to speak to this a little bit because we hear this conversation about, make America great again and that whole thing. Well, MAGA is definitely, without question, cult-ish. Okay. And I said this and will continue to say this on and on, is that if you voted for the Republican candidates in this election, I got nothing for you. And I've talked to a couple people who've asked, so Richard, how do I deal with, family and friends who may have voted Republican? And there's a conversation that's happening on some of the other shows that you hear on this station about, congratulating and giving, favor to friends and or family who may have voted Republican in this election. And although that may be how some people approach this, I can't congratulate someone or play nice with someone who made it clear to me that on any given day that if a female member of my family were assaulted by a guy that you voted for up and down the ticket, for the most part, you voted for them to be able to get away with it. See, I like to make this stuff, Henry, very literal and personal. If you vote in this election, this current season, up and down the ticket, across the board, if you voted for Republican or Republicans plural, who don't have these 10 commitment items, more than likely, not in droves, and you won't get a congratulations from me at all, because that would be hypocritical of me to give congratulations. And so in my mind, I look at that and say, again, what you did is you decided that with all this, like there's this Katie Couric and Jen Psaki little banter between these two about, Katie Couric says some garbage about Vice President Harris didn't answer the question during the CNN town hall about the Supreme Court. She gave a single sentence answer and moved on to the next thing. This is white female privilege at its finest. They're not necessarily, Jen Psaki's not necessarily going to be damaged by what happens in his next 2 to 4 years. Katie Couric, I've always had questions about her as where she sits politically and socially, but they're not going to be damaged, so they can throw out this garbage. To stay on point with this, the point that I want to make about the voting and giving somebody a congratulatory nod because they voted for the Republicans right now is, that would be our version of taking a razor blade to your wrist. I'm not going to congratulate that. And I go a little bit deeper in terms of making it personal. That would be like saying that I'm going to congratulate someone for saying to my nieces and nephews and my grandnieces and grandnephews that I really don't care if your teeth fall out. And oh, by the way, if you're driving down the road and you had a car accident, that seatbelt is no longer required. And have something tragic happen to my family members. And I'm making it personal in that space, but to anybody's children, that would be saying that the water that you drink and the air that you breathe, okay, I'll give you a congratulations for winning, if you will. I'm not doing that. And so the reason that I take the approach and will continue to take this approach and hope you guys understand it and you can buy into it or not, that we don't let people who do something that could cause us harm get away with it, is because it doesn't just affect you singularly, it affects other people. And so the children who are going to be impacted by this new cabinet and the policies that will potentially come through they're going to be harmed. The grown folks that are going to be harmed, the folks who, let's just be honest. We talked about this in terms of Social Security yesterday. Social Security cuts are going to majorly impact the people who are already on Social Security and have been living their lives as Social Security being a part of their sustainability financially. So why would I congratulate somebody for voting to harm? This is the part that's crazy, Henry. This is the part that's just literally, there's a certain amount of insanity in this. If you guys just peel this apart with me, help me pull this back. If you made the decision to vote for this craziness up and down, and I'm not just talking about the national election, but up and down the tickets throughout the country in different states, wherever you are, if you voted for this wealthy dude to replace John Tester or this other wealthy dude to replace Sherrod Brown in Ohio, what you said was, I'm okay with this guy who's been bringing stuff to the state to help us, John Tester, who's been bringing stuff to the state to help us, Sherrod Brown. I'm okay with with replacing them with two guys who got a bunch of money already, and for them to shut down things that I need, for them to be advocates to shut down things that I need in my household. So I have definitely leaned into sexism, racism, nationalism, and misogyny and nationalism as the four legs of the stool. It starts there. And you can add you could put Christian nationalism in there as the little asterisk. But at the end of the day, one thing that is firmly consistent is that these 10 commitments, these 10 things that are going to be, that I think are necessary to our furthering our conversation and staying on point and not congratulating someone who voted for a Republican up and down, left and right of the tickets, it's so important right now. You can't, you don't get to have your cake and eat it too, because there's going to be some pain on the backside. And I said this phrase before, that pinch you feel in your behind, no disrespect, or let's put it this way, that pinch you feel in your ear, so no one takes that the wrong way, is going to be a self-inflicted pinch. And you don't get a congratulations from me for winning in this election on any level, period. None whatsoever. So there you go, guys. The 10 commitments: empathy, critical thinking, ethical development, peace and social justice, service and participation, altruism, humility, environmentalism, global awareness, and responsibility. None of those are an overlay for the current Republicans that have been elected to office in this cycle. But they do fit for those of us who are progressives. All right, guys. We'll take a quick break. Come back, grab some of your calls, talk a little bit more about what's happening in this world that we're living in. 773-763-9278. Choose Views. We'll be right back.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. All right. Some things that are happening over at heartlandsignal.com. You guys saw that California banker, ironic to say this, California banker Eric Hovde conceded finally the Wisconsin Senate election, and now we're 2 weeks into that. And, of course, Tammy Baldwin will be going back to Washington, D.C., which is great. She's a good senator, does a good job for the state of Wisconsin and for the Senate in general. So that's an article that we have over at Heartland Signal. Rich Eberwine writes about that, and you guys want to check that one out. Also, a great opinion. I mentioned this before. Well, two things I want to say. First of all, one of the things that's happening with Reagan, that's happening with this Musk Ramaswamy approach to cut the alleged government waste is that it's really a sham. It's a smoke and mirrors move, and you guys have to pay attention to this. You really let's be honest, guys. They have not been sworn in yet. They are still the citizens that they were prior to November 5th. So just be mindful of that. Okay, we got a lot to get done, and as I say that, I want to give a shout out to President Biden because today is his 82nd birthday, and also shout out to what they're doing to make sure that we get some judges in place and the ethics person that was appointed. They're doing some things, maybe not enough or at the speed that we want to see them get things done in this 60-day window. But I will say this: happy birthday to President Joe Biden. If you are and have been a supporter of him, make sure you find a way through social media to post something nice about President Biden and his 82nd birthday. I think we owe that to him as a good president, as a good vice president, as a good senator, and a good, just a great social citizen. He's deserved that. You can't blame him for getting older, because let me tell you something. You should be thankful that you get older. Okay, so anybody that's running around, part of the thing that I hated about this conversation about he's too old, from any faction, I don't care who it came from, even friends of mine, the thing that I hated about the way that people were dogging President Biden about getting older, obviously nobody was talking about Trump getting older. That's one of those things, again, about the BS of the mainstream media. The mainstream media didn't talk about Trump's age. They really didn't, not in a way that dogged him. They just did not. Somebody proved me wrong. They dogged President Biden. But you know what I hated about the dogging of them from any faction is that it's a blessing. I don't care, whatever you believe in spiritually or faith, whatever that is, it's a blessing to live another day. So the insanity about this, and I'm gonna keep this in the center of the fairway as best I can. The insanity about dogging someone about getting older, in and of itself, is just it's kind of a haughty thing to do. It really is. It's just a nasty A thing to do. To dog someone about getting older who served this country better than some people. In 4 years, President Biden served this country better than some people have in 40 years. And to dog that man because he was getting older, some of y'all need to go look in the mirror. And I'm talking folks on the right and the left and in the middle. Okay? I'll take an old dude or an old gal, and no disrespect in how I'm saying that. There's no disrespect in that. I'll take that every day because I appreciate the wisdom. Honestly. And y'all know what I'm talking about. And some people need to do a little bit of a soul search on how President Biden got dogged because of his age. It just ain't right. Sorry for ruining the King's English, but it just ain't right. So, do something good today and send a happy birthday by whatever means you can. Post something on social media. If you're a progressive liberal Democrat that says happy birthday, President Biden, do that. All right. Get yourself over to Heartland Signal. There's a great article by Zach Shaw about Reagan tried to do what Musk and Ramaswamy's approach to cutting alleged government waste. It failed because it was BS, and Reagan knew it. Reagan was one of the worst presidents we've ever had. I'm tired of people going, oh, Ron, Uncle Ron, St. Ron. Reagan was a horrible president. And all you got to do is Google some of the stuff that he did or tried to do. He was a horrible president, not even close to President Jimmy Carter. So that's not my opinion. Just look at the details. Reagan was horrible. Another good opinion piece, and this is what I was talking about with Edwin Eisendrath. Kennedy's ignorance. Ignorance. What did I say the other day? Ignorance and arrogance, willful ignorance, will mean one thing. Students will go hungry. Kennedy, RFK Jr., why not even give him RFK? That was his father's denotation. His father could run circles around his son. RFK, Kennedy is not qualified to be serving in our government in any capacity, particularly one where the National School Lunch Program, which operates about 100,000 schools and subsidizes more than 4.6 billion lunches in a school year, that could go away. So children could go hungry, y'all. But make your way over to Heartland Signal. Check out what we got over there in terms of some of our wonderful articles, one by Rich Eberwine, one by Zach Shaw, and certainly one by Edwin Ojendrath. And you can also check some of the videos that we have, clips that we have there at Heartland Signal on X. Good stuff. Also, later today, check out Joan Esposito, who will be joined by Yoruba Richin and Brad Lichtenstein, directors of the PBS American Experience documentary, American Coup. Wilmington, 1898. You got to check that out. American Coup, Wilmington, 1898. Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show here on WCPT. MSN legal analyst Jill Wine-Banks will be joining Joan, and Benedictine University political science professor Joel Ostra. Live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 Central on WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal. Tonight, also check out my other road dog, Patty Vasquez, 5 to 7. We'll be joined by Cliff Albright, co-founder and executive director of Black Voters Matter, and singer Gwen Levy. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez. That's who she is. Weekdays. That would be Monday through Friday. Weekdays, 5 to 7 p.m. on WCPT. And also you can check out my podcast, Choose Views full episodes and Choose Views featured interviews. You can subscribe to one or both. The podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just search for Choose Views with Richard Chu, or get the links by visiting heartlandsignal.com/choose-views. Guess what else? At 7 a.m. today, we're going to have our good friend Kurt Mullet hanging with us. It's Wednesday, so we'll have Kurt with us. So things that are happening in our favor, things that are happening that are positive that we have to stay focused on and latch on to. I was talking about dinner I had last night with a good friend about what we have to do, and I've said this before. We have to stay connected, guys, because this is the thing that's going to happen. There was two things that I want to speak to in this. We have to stay connected because they're going to try to tear us apart and have us infighting. That will happen for sure. That will be the downfall of the party if we don't stay closely connected together. So that's one big thing we have to do. The second thing is we have to make sure that we are pushing our elected officials from the mayor's office to the White House in these next 2 years. Every single election, we have to be more involved. See, this is the thing. They want to take away our spirit. Nobody takes away my spirit, period. Not one person on the planet gets to do that. I'm not going to let someone do that, period. You can say anything you want to about me. You're not going to take away my spirit. So right now, we can't let that happen. And by being involved and by pushing our elected officials, we stem the tide of that. Because they're going to, listen, the Republicans in the House of Representatives are going to come after the Democrats. The senators in the Senate are going to come after other senators. And there's going to be all these hearings and all this garbage that are distractions of the fact that their policies are not working. That's going to be their game. They're going to play this game, Henry, where they're going to have try to have these hearings, which will distract from the craziness and the chaos of the administration and that the administration is not getting anything done. Okay? So we have to be willing to say, one, we're going to stay connected in our local communities and check in on each other and fight together rather than against each other and be locked arms, as I said before. At the same time, encourage our elected officials. We got you. They should be able to go into this fight on any level, whether it's the mayor of your particular city, your county people, your regional people, your state elected, your state legislatures, all on and on. That they don't have to turn around and wonder if we're there to support them. Yeah, I know a lot of people are ticked off and frustrated and all the rest. But I heard from my good friend Christina last night. She said that this one friend of hers was very saddened about the election, and the first couple of days, it was tough, as it has been for all of us. But then she got her her fight back in her. So that's what I'm talking about. Those are the things that we have to be willing to understand. Yeah, we're going to go through this, challenge and sadness and frustration and anger, but turn that into some positive energy to work with each other rather than against each other, because they're going to try to come for that which is coming for our spirit. We aren't going to let them do that. We're going to be fact-based. We're going to have more information. We're going to have our 10 commitments, and we're going to stand in that void. We're not going to let them run us over. I'm certainly not. And there's a clip that I want you guys to hear from the newly elected House Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries.
Back to the trans-related issues, we can talk about this legislation all day. Should there be accommodations made for trans members of Congress, and if so, what should they be?
As Catherine Clark indicated, the notion that this incoming small House Republican conference majority is beginning to transition to the new Congress by bullying a member of Congress. This is what we're doing. This is the lesson that you've drawn from the election in November. This is your priority, that you want to bully a member of Congress as opposed to welcoming her to join this body so that all of us can work together to get things done and deliver real results for the American people. I think it causes you to have to ask the question, what was all the rhetoric about over the last several months on the campaign trail? Did you lie to the American people? Are you really focused on solving problems for the American people? Are you really focused on lowering costs, addressing the high cost of living? Are you really focused on housing prices? Apparently not. Are you really focused on grocery prices? Apparently not. Are you focused, as Republicans, on building a healthy economy? Apparently you are not. And we will not hesitate to call that out every time they lean into their far-right extremism and ignore the things that the American people want us as members of Congress to focus on together.
So that's what I'm talking about. It's that kind of fire, asking the question. And he did it. He's, to his credit, he is an attorney, he has a law degree, he understands the prosecutorial cadence. Is that what have I been saying? What did John Pavlovich say? And I've been asked by a few people online to reread that, and I will get to that hopefully before the show is out. I know we're going to have a lot to cover today. But his points are well taken. You all want to badger. They want to badger a person who's transgender that got elected to Congress, rather than focus on the issues that are meaningful to our. Again, that goes back to the conversation. Were you lying? I mean, what's up? Were you lying, or what's up? I mean, that's the question. So we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to grab a couple calls. We got Kurt Mullen at 7 o'clock, but the number is 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Glad to be with you this morning. And, what can I say? We've got a lot of work on our hands, but I like the way that House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries positioned it. Did you, during the campaign, you all said all this. He was talking to the media and to Republicans more broadly. You said all these things, but now you want to throw up the let's keep out someone from the LGBTQ community that was duly elected. First of all. So, and the hypocrisy of Mike Johnson. He's going to talk about somebody or not answer a question about a person who is transgender. But he won't answer. He won't get in he won't stand up to his quote other Christian values when it comes to men who have been accused, duly convicted, or adjudicated properly. That's the word I was looking for sexual harassment, if not rape. But, oh, Mike Johnson, I'm a good Christian boy. I'm going to speak for Jesus. Huge egg hypocrite. So I'm with Minority Leader Jeffries in his effort to prosecute the case against Republicans for their garbage. So let's take a quick call. Let's go to Gregory. Gregory, good morning. Welcome to Choose Views. Make it quick, man. We got a tight time this morning. What's happening?
All right. The last time I spoke, you said you were going to have to cut me off because you were coming up to a break. But in the spirit of not having infighting, as we do a postmortem on why our beloved champion quarterback Kamala Harris lost the Super Bowl, we want to win next time. I fact-checked with Google, and a British Broadcasting Corporation article came up that it was Trump who came out with no tax on tips in June, and then she came out in August, which is when they started calling her copycat Kamala.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. Simple question. Who did you vote for?
I voted for Jill Stein because I couldn't vote for the orange monstrosity or NATO expansion, which could lead to World War III.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you who you voted for. You voted for Jill Stein. Okay. And that's your choice, man. Listen, I'm not downing you for voting for Jill Stein. I get that some people voted for Jill Stein. But don't denigrate and sarcastically refer to our vice president in the way in which you did by voting for Jill Stein.
I didn't. I'm quoting them.
No. I'm not talking about the data. I'm not talking about the data, and I'm not going to debate it with you. I heard exactly what you said. You were talking about...
I'm trying to get your first name, Richard. Richard, I didn't... I was quoting what the Republicans were saying about her
that's not how you, that's not how you positioned it. So let's back...
You took it wrong.
No, Gregory.
I wasn't meaning it that way. I was trying to quote the Republicans.
Well, you should...
We're having infighting over a little thing again. I was quoting them.
Gregory, then you should have said it that way, because I heard what you said.
I did. You took it the wrong way. I did not mean it that way.
Okay, good. So now we can back... There's no second thing. There's no second thing, because we're not doing the infighting. You and I aren't going to do the infighting. Let's just
right. Let's move on.
So move on. No. My rules. My rules. So just press pause. We're not doing the debate this morning. I get where you're coming from. You voted for Jill Stein. That's your business, man. I'm not going to denigrate you for voting for Jill Stein. Just be prepared to deal with the consequences. So let's go to the next call. I mean, seriously, he voted for Jill Stein because he couldn't vote for the Orange Menace, but he couldn't find a way to vote for Vice President Harris. But you voted for Jill Stein. So deal with the consequences, man. I am not debating people on that. I will give you a few moments to have your commentary, but then I'm shutting you down because he voted for someone that was not credible in what she said about what she's going to do for the country. And I'm not going to debate somebody about that. I've got people who want to ask how to deal with their families who they're struggling with in terms of this recent election and the garbage that they're going to have to deal with. Fine. But if that's a position you took, that's fine. But deal with the consequences because they're coming. But, a lot of people lean on their privilege. And they're going to lean on their privilege and say, well, it's not going to be that bad. And that's clearly voting for Jill Stein is saying that in part. And I'm not going to denigrate him for voting for her, but I am not going to not call out the fact, deal with the consequences, because that's what's going to happen. But see, there's people who have that position that think that they aren't going to have to suffer any consequences. So they can vote for a Jill Stein with complete, no guilt about it. I couldn't vote for the Orange Menace. Okay, fine. But why couldn't you vote for Vice President Harris? That's what I really want to know. I don't care why you voted for Jill Stein. I know based on what she says she stands for. So anyhow, enough time wasted on that. I want to go to a clip that is going to definitely get people's attention. Let's go to the MAGA What You Get.
Okay, so you didn't want billionaires to pay their fair share. Instead, you voted for billionaires who told you they're going to create hardship for you. Yeah, that's what Elon Musk said he's going to do. He's going to cut $2 trillion out of the federal budget, and he warned you this would bring you hardship. And you said, yeah, let's do that. Trump. Now, in order to do this, Trump will have to come after your Social Security and your Medicare because you can't cut $2 trillion without slashing 62% of the rest of the federal budget. Now, Elon Musk wants to get rid of the FBI. He wants to get rid of food inspections, housing aid, welfare, and he wants to fire millions of government employees who provide very valuable services to our veterans, to our disabled people, to our poor. This is what you voted for. And Trump's big tax cut, remember that? It added $2 trillion to the debt. $2 trillion. And the very next year, Elon Musk paid $0 in taxes. He's not going to pay down that debt. You are. And you're too dumb to even realize the acronym for the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is Dogecoin. That's Musk cryptocurrency. Elon Musk just bought the U.S. presidency and you let him. So buckle up, Buttercup. You voted for hardship and you're going to get it.
All right. So we played that clip earlier in the week because it's appropriate. And there is a point at which you have to say, this is what you voted for. Okay. So voting for Jill Stein, no matter what someone's intentions were in terms of what he said, was a vote against all these things that we say we stand for. Let's just be honest for a second. If Kamala Harris came out after Donald Trump in terms of the tips, and understand, and I know that Kurt, our friend Kurt from Akron, we broke this down in terms of the tips. It gets into this whole conversation about bonuses and whether you want to slice and dice. I don't care who you are, like Katie Couric and Jen Psaki did in trying to take one question from the CNN town hall. You could take one thing all day long, but the laundry list of Trump is a bigger item or items to deal with. I don't care if you can present, you want to present that Donald Trump talked about tips not being taxed before Kamala Harris did or not. And what I do care about is if someone says they then voted against the person who was going to do the best overall for the country, I can hear what you have to say, and I can try to get with your rationalization and the facts that you would want to bring to the conversation. But ultimately, your actions, which were to vote for Jill Stein or to not vote for Kamala Harris, is going to hurt the country. So I could, whatever someone's intentions were are irrelevant because their actions are what really counted. And this is why that clip why I wanted to play it again. Okay, fine. But you voted for the thing that's going to ultimately harm more people. And that's why, I wanted to know who we voted for. And, to keep that to keep this on the rails, once again, MAGA, that's what you get. And if you are going to be a supporter of that, then, at the end of the day, that's a problem. And all those things that you say that she didn't answer correctly or fast enough or long enough or whatever it is that you got stuck in your craw, I get some people want to say, yeah, but how do we fix the party going forward? And that gets back into what I said about it wasn't messaging. We're dealing with criminality, guys. Folks voted for criminality. And the mainstream media, look at these two women, Katie Couric and Jen Psaki, mainstream media. And what did they do? They started to slice and dice. Why? Because they can. And until we stop doing that and stop making women, particularly women of color, black women specifically, walk this tightrope in heels, it starts with us in that regard. We have to be the change agents. And voting for Jill Stein is not being a change agent in that regard. It's taken us backward, and it clearly did. So, sorry, guys. I know that may have, pinched a few people in the ear, but just think about that for a second. Just think about that for a second. Look what that got us. So, There you go. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So, listen, I know that there are going to be people who come at us with what they believe are facts that are greater than things that we present. I get that. And the call that we had before we went to the break was one of those situations. And, short of saying, sorry for giving him a little bit of smoke, whether he was accurate or not about what the BBC and Google had to say about this tips thing, it's not that it's irrelevant. It's not as relevant as ultimately the actions taken, which is that he didn't vote for the preservation and saving democracy at the end of the day. And for whatever reason, anybody stacks the deck and says, I couldn't vote for the Orange Menace, which I've labeled, and not just me, but other people have. And you voted for someone that clearly wanted to be a spoiler. You got what you wanted. So the facts at that point, this is what I'm trying to say, and I hope folks understand this, and I'm not being a jerk in this space. The facts are not irrelevant, but your actions then matter more than the facts that you're trying to present to prove me or somebody else wrong. It's not, and that's why I didn't debate him on the facts, because the facts are the facts. I wasn't going to debate him on, well, she said it a week before. Okay, whatever. But ultimately, the actions, that's why I played that clip right after, that's the real litmus test. That's the litmus test. I hope you guys get that. The facts matter. That's what we talk about here. So I'll give credit and check the box for if that research on Google and the BBC is accurate, kudos. But ultimately, what this person did is he voted so that if any of my grandnieces are assaulted, that the new administration can say to a police officer, you've got immunity. And oh, by the way, I'm going to put this kook in my administration that's going to harm the teeth of my grandnieces and nephews. And oh, by the way, women, if you are in a marriage that is abusive, yeah, I agree with the state of Texas. You can't get out of it. That's ultimately, so take those facts, y'all, and apply those to the conversation. If he's accurate about the timing of when Trump said one thing or Vice President Harris said another, okay, you win. But ultimately, you lost. And that's what I want people to understand. I'm not going to debate facts. Facts are facts. I can't say one thing, facts matter, and then do something different. But when somebody says something like that and then backs it up with, but I voted for Jill Stein, who in many ways and many interviews that she was on did not speak the facts. Okay? At least Vice President Harris didn't lie. We don't have some thousands of lies that she told. So I just need y'all to understand that the reason that I asked him who he voted for is I wanted to know what his actions were at the end of the day. And his actions were detrimental to our greater good. And I hope you guys can see that. So there we go. All right. Our man Kurt Mullet's on the line from Hoosier Blue 63. I know Henry's grabbing calls. Can we grab Kurt real quickly? Hey, Kurt, good morning. Welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I know you probably heard that. And what can I tell you?
Yeah. Let me say something. So he called in because he thought he had a gotcha moment with you. Okay. And I love dudes like this because they think look what I found on, Google. Gotcha. What about the laundry list of the things that Trump has said and done in the past? Do you pay attention to any of that? And since you voted for Jill Stein and you are in love with Google and what you find out, why don't you Google Jill Stein dinner with Vladimir Putin? And then call back and tell us what you find. Guys like that drive me nuts. You voted for Jill Stein. You voted for Donald Trump. Period. End of story. So that's what I got to say about it.
All right, and I appreciate you putting a cap on that. So we'll move on.
Yeah.
Because I thought, am I crazy? Did I miss something? Am I crazy here?
No, you didn't miss anything, man.
All right,
you didn't miss anything.
All right, cool. Well, you've got a fan. You've got a number of fans, but one specifically, a person that, like I was saying earlier, we had a chance to get together for dinner, and just a little shout out that to you. She really appreciates the work that you do and now follows you, et cetera, et cetera. So kudos to my man, Kurt Mullet, who's your Blue 63. So listen, man, you're very, very welcome. Listen, I understand that there's a lot of people who are filled with angst right now about this upcoming administration, as the administration is starting to quote unquote not take shape, but at least it's, these are people that he's nominating, but they haven't been sworn in, they haven't been vetted yet. But the thing that's stark about the who's who list, let's call it that, the who's who list of chaos agents. That's what we're going to call it. Is there are two people on that list right now that are missing. And those two people, I could say this, and you can follow me.
The pillow guy and Kid Rock.
No. There's two people that are okay. I'm going to throw myself a little bit under the bus myself, but I'm not really. There's two people that are missing, and those two cotton-picking black elected officials known as Tim Scott and Byron Donalds. Now I know you can't say that, and I say it in the quotes, but it looks like the water that they towed from the field house to the master's house hasn't been accepted yet. So listen.
What can you say about that? What can you say about that?
But in a broader sense, this is the thing: the cabinet does not represent. The cabinet has no quote unquote color, culture. Yeah, Ramaswamy and Tulsi Gabbard. Two people. There's two women, her and Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles is about that business. She's dangerous. Many of these other folks are kooks and crazies and fools and whatnot. But Susie Wiles, Kristi Noem, and Tulsi Gabbard are the only three women. The rest have been predominantly men. To this
Stefanik.
Stefanik's on there as well, but it's mostly white men. I mean, it's like 95% white men. And listen, I'm not making a statement against white men or against anybody. I'm just saying there's no diversity in this, and that doesn't mean that we're talking about this from a DEI standpoint. It's to say that the dude who said I'm going to take care of the Mexican jobs and the black jobs. Well, I don't see anybody in the administration that is a representation of that. So for those who want to call in and get on me about that one, bring it on. But there's no representation to what your boy Trump said he was going to represent. Fair statement?
Well, I'm a white guy, so I can make that comment. Yeah, he's putting in white boys. He's putting in his white boys. He's surrounding himself with his sycophants. And I hate keep using that word, but that's, I can't use the word that I really want to use. The puckers. The puckers of the world.
That's right.
I mean, this is what he's surrounding himself with. These are people that are not qualified for the positions that he's putting them in or that he's nominating them for. These are people that are going to allow him to do whatever he wants to and are going to stand in the background and good job. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, just listen to the verbiage that comes out of, people in D.C. and the Senate and it's mind-boggling. But Wilds and Blanche and Sauer, those are the three people that scare me. Mm-hmm. I mean, John Sauer, okay, you know, he is nominated for the Solicitor General. And the job of the Solicitor General is to represent the United States in court cases, basically. That's his job. Okay. He's the guy that argued in front of the Supreme Court, and I think I said this last week, but I'm going to say it again, that said it's a presidential act if a president commands a SEAL Team 6 to take out an opponent.
Yep.
This guy is now going to be in Trump's cabinet, or possibly in Trump's cabinet, and he is going to represent the United States in court cases. That, to me, is if they don't fight this dude getting into that position with tooth and nail, you know, I don't know what to say, because this is the direct. I mean, you think immunity was something that, you know, frightened us.
Yeah, these are people that understand, and this is what was the conversation that so many progressives were having these last 2 years and leading up to this election, is that, yeah, there's kooks in this chaos committee that have no qualification for the job. But there's others who, although they may not have qualification, they do know their way around Washington, D.C., and they have prosecuted cases, or they've been part of the buildup to cases that have gone to state Supreme Courts as well as to federal courts, and they understand the navigation that's required to get the junk done that they want. So it's folks like him, Susie Wiles, who's going to have Trump's ear to the extent that matters. And frankly, the people who know Washington enough to cause some internal damage that it'll take a long time to repair. The stuff that the big things, like, because see, this is my opinion or observation. The big things that Kennedy could wreck are going to cause citizens to go, oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. The big things like that are going to be so out in the open. And frankly, Huckabee, that's going to be so obvious. So it's certain areas, even the Justice Department, if Matt Gaetz were to get through, it's going to be so obvious that there are going to be people that will be, you know, pitchforking. And I believe, because it's going to directly impact people. But it's some of the quiet stuff that folks like Sauer will be able to get done. And everyday, you know, lunch table, kitchen table, whatever, Americans aren't going to know about until it's too late. That will be
right. People aren't going to pay attention to what he's doing, because they're going to pay attention to the kooks and the loudmouth. That's the way things work, right?
That's why I said that yesterday that part of what's going on is the distraction. It's look over here. Meanwhile, you know, these are the things that we're doing quietly that you aren't going to know about. And they have the people. So pay attention to not just the crazy folks that are being appointed, but pay attention to the ones that know their way around Washington. I mean, you agree or disagree?
No, I agree 100%. I mean, I think that's exactly what's going to take place. And like I just said, there, you know, the people like Sauer and Blanche and Wiles, who really probably are going to be doing their stuff without the recognition and the, being noticed in the public like the other kooks, they're the ones that are going to do the real damage in our country. I mean, there's no doubt about it. RFK is a whack job, you know, and his possible appointment hits home with me, because my grandfather, who I was extremely close with, I was his firstborn grandson, and I knew him for 30 years of my life. You know, he was struck with polio as a child, and he fought it his whole life. He had disability, you know, he had a gimp in his step. I mean, and this guy wants to do away with all vaccinations. I mean, I don't think people understand what he is saying. I mean, this is just frightening beyond belief. And don't tell me that guy doesn't cram himself with steroids. And I hate making accusations that are. Come on, don't tell me that.
Use some common sense in that one. Go ahead, Kurt. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, and then you see a picture of him sitting on the plane with all these. With this clown group, and they're eating McDonald's. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, the picture of health here. Okay. I mean, I do try to take care of myself, but I'm not what I was when I was 25 years old. But I haven't ate at McDonald's for probably 15 years because it's garbage. And here we got a guy who has told us that he's had a brainworm before and that he picked up a bear in Central Park and took it home and he didn't eat the meat because it was rotten. And I mean, and he's going to be our Health and Human Services.
Students will go hungry.
I don't know, Richard.
Edwin Eisendrath, one of our show hosts on Saturdays and one of the contributors at Heartland Signal, has a great opinion piece that says Kennedy's ignorance will mean one thing: students will go hungry. But it also means many other things, which is Americans will be harmed from a health perspective. So this administration and the people that are, part of this chaos crew is the other disturbing thing about it for me, not so much for me individually, but just sort of me as a person that wants to see our country go forward. None of the things that they're known for, is about moving the country forward. And as much as they sort of try to apply themselves to this America First ideology, the reality is none of the stuff that they're proponents of is about America first. Or let me put it this way, is about moving the country forward. It's actually about moving the country back to some mythical time that never really existed. And that's why this chaos crew is problematic. It's not really going to move the country forward. Its design is to move it back to when white men had the say up and down the line. That's what this is really all about. And they've got a couple of, people that they sprinkled in there to make it look like, but those are like you said, they're his sycophants.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that who Trump is?
Yeah.
Do you really think that he's going to move our country forward? We have seen what happened before, and he's got all his base convinced that he did wonderful things and that he just changed everything. I mean, I'd seen a comment yesterday someone made about, they were talking about health care. Well, that's why we needed a new president, so we can improve our health care. I started laughing. I was like, he talked for 4 years about a new health care program, and it never happened. What makes you think it's going to be any different now? I mean, he's not for moving anyone forward. He's for doing exactly what you said. And I've said this time and time again. We have a white supremacy movement in our country that is probably as strong as it has been since the Civil War, even from the 50s and 60s and 30s and 40s. I mean, it is a scary time that people need to pay attention because that's what's happening in our country.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about the Mandate for Leadership and you haven't read it, you need to read it.
Yep, that's right.
It's too late for you to do anything about it, but you need to read it because you need to understand what's happening and what's going to happen in our country. So
I think there's a lot. I mean, and I would add to what you just said in saying, in terms of if you haven't read these things and you haven't plugged in, and you said none of this was going to happen, you need to read them because so that you can find a way, as I've said so many times, to be not to be overly impacted by it. Kurt, I wanted to pivot to something that you posted, and this was the thing that you posted over. I think it was a weekend. It was called "Since Nixon Was Elected." And you guys, check this out. This is one of the things that Kurt put together, and this is why you need to follow him at Hoosier Blue 63. Since Nixon was elected, American jobs added by Republicans 29 million. By Democrats, 60.5 million. So that's twofold and then some. Indictments, Republicans, 317. Democrats, 3. The top marginal tax rate has been lowered from 73% to 21% from the tax cuts given by Reagan, Bush, and the felon, a.k.a. Trump. Now the felon promises to lower it to 15%. These tax cuts could have been proven by many economists over the years to be the main contributor to the increase in the national debt our nation has experienced. 9 of the 10 poorest states are under complete Republican control. That's why state legislatures and your vote matters, not just in the federal election. 8 of the 10 states that are to receive the highest amounts in federal aid are Republican controlled. 7 of the 10 states that receive the lowest amounts of federal aid are, guess what? Democratic controlled states. Now tell me why you want to go and vote Republican or Jill Stein. I mean, this is a post that you guys should check out that Kurt put up over the weekend. Speak to that a little bit.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Well, what I do is try to throw some facts out there that people maybe don't realize and don't understand about it. You know, you were talking about the socialism yesterday, I believe it was, and, you know, how people throw this word out there, but they totally don't understand it. And yet they don't understand that, you know, the states in our country that are the poorest, that need the most of federal aid, that need more of a socialism-type atmosphere, are Republican-controlled states. These are the states that depend on, you know, the U.S. government.
Yeah, the blue and the contributions that come from the blue states. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. You know, it's just like people don't realize that in our country, I think it's 71 or 72% or 73% of our economy comes from blue states.
Yep.
Okay? That's where the economy of our country is established and made, is in blue states. And I don't care what anybody says about, less than 30% of our economy come from red states. And as we know, when we see all these maps that have red all over them, we have a lot more red states than we do blue states. So it's just disproportionate as far as, you know, what our country actually produces when it comes to blue and red, or Democrats and Republicans, you know, and jobs added and indictments are two other things that people need to realize. I mean, that to me mind boggles me when I think about it, the indictments alone. And they're not all convictions and they're not all court cases, and a lot of them got dropped. But the fact is, if Democrats since 1970 had 317 indictments against us.
First of all, the mainstream media, let's just talk about that. If that were the case, the mainstream media would be broadcasting and talking about that every segment, about the next indictment, who's got indicted. And but it's clearly not happening when it comes to what the information of the Republicans, and we know that. But again, part of what we try to do here is to give you guys facts, data, information that you can use when you're talking with your folks, so that you don't get caught, flat-footed or on your back foot. And that's what we, aspire to do here. Even if the fact is sometimes one that is a fact that may not shine well on a Democratic candidate, it's still the fact. But the idea is to make sure that we're presenting it in the best way possible. So that's some data that comes from our man Kurt Mullet, Hoosier Blue 63. I can't take credit. I can't take credit for that.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you. Just a couple things, because I know we're coming to the end here. I'm meeting with a group of women tonight, a small group of women, but it's just something that I'm doing to move forward to help people understand how we can fight and become more involved, and to do something about the blue movement. You made a comment earlier that somebody said, how do we fix our party? Our party doesn't need fixed. It's the other party that needs fixed, and that's where our focus needs to be, and people need to understand. A lot of people don't have the facts. So I'm meeting with a small group of women tonight, Democrats in my county, and hopefully this grows to something that we do more often. But I'm just going to try to give them some tools and some information about how to fight some of these things that, Republicans continuously say, because I know a lot of people just do not know the knowledge to be able to counter. And the one thing that I have found out, Republicans hate facts. Okay, so that's one thing I'm going to do. The other thing I want to comment on is Sarah McBride. Okay,
yep.
She's 1 out of 100 senators. That's 1%. Okay, the transgender population in our country is just over 1%. This is what Republicans do. They focus on a super minority group and make it such an issue because they want to distract from everything else that's going on.
Bingo.
So
that is.
And they haven't heard from Sarah McBride. If you know anything about her,
she's gonna bring the heat. Wait till she gets. Wait till she gets the microphone. Yeah. Am I right, Kurt? She's gonna bring the heat. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
They're not ready for that smoke.
Wait until her and MTG. Yeah.
They're not ready for that smoke.
They don't know who this woman is.
No, they do not.
Yeah. You think she's got to where she's gotten because she's a weak individual?
Thank you. I hear you. I'm glad you said it because I might have said it the wrong way, but I'm glad you positioned it. Just wait for Sarah McBride to get the mic, and then you'll see why she got elected. And to that end,
more power to her.
Absolutely.
Hey, one more thing.
Go for it.
As a kid, I was a Chicago sports fan. Okay. And one of my favorite heroes was Bob Love. Okay?
Oh yes.
And, I wore number 10 in sports as a kid because of him. Yeah. I don't know what it was about him, but he was somebody that I don't know I attracted to when I was a kid, and I admired who he was.
He carried himself well. He was great. He was a great ball player. Let's call it right there. But he carried himself well. He was a gentleman. He was respectful to other players on the court and off the court, and he was just smooth. I mean, the guy was smooth and cool. And in a lot of folks today. I give favor to our young folks, and then we got to get out of here. But a lot of folks don't understand that 70s cool that you and I grew up with, and that's not to slam our young folks. But that 70s cool was a thing. Am I right?
Exactly. It was. I felt brotherhood. I felt, hey, man, we're all in this together. I mean, that was the era of, love one another. Let's, this is who we are. I mean, that whole time of getting past the 60s and then getting into the 70s, it was just, women's rights were coming around, and the country was just, it was just a great time to grow up in. But I want to pay tribute to him because he was an important part of my childhood.
Absolutely.
And I think the guy ended up averaging 8 or 9 rebounds a game and over 20 points a game. He was a Chicago Bull legend.
Yes, he was. He was. Hey, listen, good luck with your event tonight, and I want to talk about that next Wednesday. So much success. Shout out in advance to the women that are going to be there. Let them know we got them here on Choose Views. And once again, Kurt, great to have you on the show this morning, and thank you for your contributions, man.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, Richard, and you have a great day.
I will. You too. Be safe today. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye now. All right, let's take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Always great to have Kurt Mullet with us from Hoosier Blue 63. And with that being said, we've got to bring on Kurt from Akron, Ohio. Hey, Kurt, good morning, sir. Thanks for holding and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. And great segment with Kurt, as always.
Thank you.
Couple things here. To Gregory, facts do matter. Facts do matter, and you didn't want to debate, but I'm going to give you a few facts here, Gregory. Yes, Donald Trump did talk about no taxing of tips first. However, Kamala Harris did say it second. But this is the thing. Kamala Harris was specific on what she was not going to tax as far as tips, which was hospitality workers only. That would be your waitresses, your hotel workers, whomever that provides a hospitality service. Donald Trump's definition of tips is that Clarence Thomas doing a vote for some bigwig and then he gets some kind of lucrative gift or cash payout after that vote on the Supreme Court to benefit that person? Or is it a $2 million tip to Donald Trump for a pardon? So you do the definition of what a tip is.
Good point. Kurt, first of all, thank you for filling in that, because I wasn't going to take the time to do what you just did, because I wanted to get to the fact. Like I said, the fact is what the fact was stated. I ain't arguing that. But at the end of the day, what did you do? You voted for Jill Stein. So,
and that's the other thing, too. Is Jill Stein is a Russian asset, just as Donald Trump is. There was never a pathway to 270. And I just hope to God you feel good about your little protest vote of purity testing our candidates, because, like Richard said, you're going to have to live with the consequences, and you better be ready for them.
Yeah, and that's all I was trying to say. Look, vote who you're going to vote for. I mean, I think I did my part. I tried to do my part to say, listen, even in the capsulizing of she ain't perfect, okay, none of us are. But at the end of the day, what is she trying to do to move the country backwards? Nothing. But to help as many people to go forward, a lot. And so when people want to nitpick, like Katie Couric and what's her name did?
Jen
Psaki. I'm like, really? Really?
And that's the thing that disappoints me about Jen Psaki, because she was Joe Biden's press secretary.
Right.
And then what was the other thing? Oh, you were talking about Bobby Kennedy Jr. And by the way, his father would have been 99 years old today, too, in addition to Joe Biden.
That's amazing. 82. That's amazing.
But Bobby Kennedy, the real Bobby Kennedy, let's call him the good Bobby Kennedy, he actually, as a senator from New York, didn't just stick around New York City or upstate New York or wherever representing the people of New York. Yeah, he had that as his elected position, but he went to the Mississippi Delta. Yep. He visited black families and white families in the poorest region of the country, the Mississippi Delta. And he said the Poor People's Movement, and he saw young children starving whose stomachs were bloated because they hadn't eaten in days. And his son is going to do completely the opposite of what his father fought and died for.
Yep.
And then the other thing, as far as vaccines, Bobby Kennedy's 70 years old. You can't tell me that guy didn't get polio vaccinations back in the 50s and early 60s. You know Grandpa Joe Kennedy was making sure that was being done.
Anything and everything that man could do to make sure that his children and grandchildren had the best of the best, the safest of the safest, and whatever technology at the time, we didn't really use technology as part of it, but medical advancements were going to provide for his family. You can damn sure believe that Joe Kennedy made certain that he moved his family to the front of the line. I mean,
and even if it was a failure, because he did have a failure with Rosemary with the lobotomy, but that was a new thing then, and he had certain things that were told to him, whether it was the right thing to do. That was 85 years ago. We can't really argue that too much anymore, because like I like to say about history is you can't use today's logic for yesterday's reason. Yep. But Joe Kennedy moved Rosemary to the front of the line to do a lobotomy to stop her violence due to her mental disability. And back then, we know what we called it that. And I just didn't want to use the word.
I hear you.
But, I mean, Joe Kennedy was making sure. But again, he also taught his children and his grandchildren that because you were given so much and people were starving and they were hungry during the Depression, which is when his children were coming up, you had a responsibility to make sure that didn't happen again. And somewhere along the line, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. lost that mentality, lost that ability to do what his grandfather, as shady as he was, to give back to your country in a positive way, so that, President Kennedy, who, my goodness, Friday, November 22nd already, is going to be the 61st anniversary of his assassination. Yep. If you remember, and Joe Biden's kind of like this too, if people would take the time to pay attention and listen, President Kennedy, like President Biden, had an ability to make little people feel like they were big people.
Yep. Do you remember, hey, Kurt, do you remember during the 2020 campaign when President Biden, then candidate Biden, came across that young man who stuttered and he stopped? Oh, yeah. Remember that? He stopped and helped him understand. I was there, too. I still am there. I still struggle with it. And here are a couple of tips. And don't let them take away your power. I mean, Vice President Harris, when there were young women, to all the people out there that want to nitpick about
I hope
the questions.
I hope I can vote for you for president.
Yeah, when she was on the campaign trail, and she would encounter young folks, men, boys and girls, but particularly girls, and she would slow down her universe to make a direct connection with that young woman. I mean, to tell them, you want to nitpick on the fact that she didn't answer a question precisely the way and the tenor that you wanted to on the Supreme Court or on tips? Give me a doggone break.
It's the personal touches, and I'm going to give you one personal to me. Is back in 2012 during Superstorm Sandy, Barack Obama was supposed to come to Akron, Ohio, during the 2012 campaign, but he couldn't do it because of Superstorm Sandy. And we're talking like November 1st. So he sent Bill Clinton. And I know there's a lot of people out there who have their issues with Bill Clinton. Don't get me wrong. I respect that. I appreciate that. But, for the time, he was the best we had, given some of the circumstances. Yep. However, as a child, or I should say as a young adult, as an older teenager, young adult, I admired Bill Clinton. He was actually one of my heroes that I looked up to growing up. And I'll tell you, I actually went to that rally at the John S. Knight Center in Akron, and I was about 4 people from the podium. And as he was shaking hands, I looked at him, and he looked at me as he was shaking hands, and I pointed to my right eye, and I said, "Mr. President, I am legally blind in this eye. May we please get a picture together?" He took my camera from my hand, embraced me, and told the Secret Service agent to take that picture right then and there. And for about 30 seconds, he and I were the only 2 people in that room.
Yeah. So by comparison, folks, the point that I want to take from what Kurt just said, I didn't need Vice President Harris to stand on that tightrope in heels and answer every question perfectly at the right time with the right tenor. And when I had this fool on the stage denigrating people that I care about that I don't even know, and this traitor-esque woman, Jill Stein, sitting with Vladimir Putin, or a Tulsi Gabbard sitting with
Vladimir Putin.
I don't need to say, "Hey, Vice President Harris, you got to thread this needle for me, or I'm not going to vote for you." By comparison to these people over here that want to not allow children to feel good, not to make sure that those bellies are not swollen, not to make sure that people are protected. And that's why I keep harping on this, and I say that not as a nasty way, but I keep drilling down on our candidates want to move us forward and help all parts of the country.
And then you got a ding-dong like Dennis Kucinich. I just got an email or a text. Was it a text or an email? It's one of those things, because I subscribed to his congressional campaign when he was running against Marcy Kaptur. Thank goodness he lost. Dennis Kucinich sent out an email yesterday to the people that were on his email list saying, Joe Biden, Donald Trump was elected president. Now Joe Biden's trying to do something to end the war in Ukraine and Iraq. I'm thinking, ding dong, who's the president for the next 2 months?
That's his job. I mean, that's where education.
Just because you lose, or just because your party loses, doesn't mean, unless you're Donald Trump, you mentally check out for the rest of your term. Because if you remember, Donald Trump mentally checked out.
Yep, until it was time to try to overthrow the government. So, Kurt, always great to hear from you, man. Thanks for filling the void this morning. I really appreciate that and appreciate your contribution.
Thank you.
All right, man.
You.
We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Be well. Be safe. There you go, guys. We have some smart people in our party on our team, and sometimes, and I'll be the first to say this about myself, I've said this before, I know a lot, but I don't know everything, and I don't get everything right, but I try to do my best to say, if I don't get it quite right, to back up and say, hold on a second, that's on me. But clearly, there's a number of folks that are like, yeah, I'm not down with this. Let's make her walk a tightrope in heels with no balancing beam. I'm not down with that. So if folks don't like it, then I can't fix you. I can't fix that part of you. when you have the contrast of this just awful person that's been elected again and wants to deport people, wants to wreck Social Security. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, I got a couple clips to wrap up the show today. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, a clip that I wanted you to hear earlier in the show, but I definitely want you to check it out now. And this is one of our great representatives talking about what's going to happen and in terms of this cabinet. And we talked about the cabinet earlier, and I wanted to bring it to you then, but we had to deal with some of the other issues. But Representative McGovern talks about this cabinet that's coming our way.
What the hell is going on here? And their cabinet picks so far? I mean, these are like beyond insane. Someone who is credibly accused of having sex with an underage girl. Someone who sucks up to foreign dictators and has attracted major concern that they can't be trusted to protect America's secrets from our adversaries. Someone who paid hush money to cover up a sexual assault accusation, to lead our military. He's picked because Donald Trump likes him on Fox News. Someone who says that tap water turns kids gay. I mean, this is the dream team? This is the dream team? Really? I mean, seriously, it would be funny if it weren't so sad.
It's more like a nightmare. So, for those of you who are privileged enough to be able to say, yeah, I voted for, Jill Stein in this election. And all of us have evolved in terms of, I can't do that anymore. We all have to look at ourselves and say, how do I evolve? And in this day, with all the data and information that's in front of us, that's your call. But like the gentleman said in the earlier clip, you get what you voted for. And heaven help you if you're on the wrong side of that. I know I'm not going to be. But to what a number of you are thinking, maybe not necessarily able to say it out loud, I am going to read this again because I had a number of people that asked me to send this to them and to read this on the air again. And this is what John Pavlovitz posted day before yesterday. This election result isn't about dim messaging. Their messaging during the campaign was about helping the middle class, continuing sound economic policies, affordable health care and education, the rights of women, strengthening the border, and unity. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz formed a balanced ticket filled with character, intellect, and the genuine love for this country, and they eloquently delivered their vision better, beautifully. This election result is about racism, misogyny, lack of education, and irresponsible media that caters to those realities. There is no messaging that can overcome prejudice and ignorance, and those two factors are the only explanation for Trump even being the nominee and getting 75 million votes. We need to stop pretending there is some perfect Democratic candidate or magic messaging to reach people who have abandoned objective reality and chosen to embrace their fears and phobias, while failing to do the slightest bit of work to know what candidates' policies and plans are. The Dems didn't fail America. They just exist in a nation where far too many people don't pay attention or care to understand what's actually happening. And maybe they will now. So, I was asked by a number of folks to read that again, and it probably will be read again by me, but I just wanted to respond to the request. And last but not least, this clip is going to be one that will resonate with folks that you need to. Those who are out there talking about, deportation. Yes, let's deport people and it's going to better our economy. I want you to hear this clip that comes from someone who's elbows deep in dealing with how this will impact our country.
will look and say, but wait a minute, they're Americans who are unemployed. Why can't you just hire them?
They don't want to come out here and work in this extreme conditions, 100+ degree temperatures, dust, hard work.
What if you paid them more?
It doesn't matter. We pay some of the highest wages for farm workers in the nation right here in California, and they won't come out. In California, we grow about 50% of the fruits and vegetables and nuts for the country. And any shortage of food like that is going to impact everybody in the nation, because not only will food be less available, it'll be more expensive.
Manuel Cunha Jr. runs the Nisei Farmers League, a trade organization representing farmers and farm workers in the Fresno area. He says Trump's promise to deport all undocumented migrants would disrupt the entire country.
If you took away my workforce, you wouldn't eat. If you go into the San Joaquin Valley and you start doing what you're saying, it's over. The country will stop. I mean, literally stop, because the food system won't move.
And like Joe Del Bosque, he insists these undocumented farm workers are not taking jobs that would otherwise go to American citizens.
I don't care what you pay them. I don't care if you pay them $26 an hour. It ain't going to happen. They're not going to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, drive to the field, and pick fruit.
So, for those who have this bent about let's get rid of the illegals, let's deport them, let's send them back where they came from, the first question I want to ask is, how many people are going to point that ire on folks who've come here from not southern border countries, i.e. European countries, that are here illegally now? Are those folks going to get deported? The ones that look like the cabinet that Donald Trump is putting together, the chaos cabinet? And these are white Europeans that might still be here illegally because their visas ran out. Y'all know I'm telling the truth in that space. And the anchor babies that are not necessarily brown skin, you think that they don't exist? See, that's the problem. That's why racism was a big part of this. It's because many people are too stupid and haven't done the research to know that a lot of the folks that are here illegally don't look like the so-called brown-skinned folks that have come from southern border countries. Let that settle in for a minute. They look like Jill Stein. I guess I just can't let that go, Henry. They look like some of the folks that are in your Montana neighborhoods or in your, red state neighborhoods. Let's put it that way. That's who they look like. And they're in the shadows, too. So are those folks going to get deported? That's a question America's got to really ask itself in this deportation effort. Are they going to deport the people that look like your ancestors from parts of Europe? I want to know that question. Maybe tomorrow, you guys, when you call in, we can tackle that. I'll put it out there at the beginning of the show so we can talk about it. Are they going to deport those folks too? Or are they just going to deport you mean to tell me, let's be honest, that all those folks that look like you from parts of Europe are here legally? Every last one of them. And I'm going to start with something that a lot of people are probably going to get their undies in a bundle over, but I'm going to say it. Y'all understand this. Under Trump's repeal birthright citizenship, there are a lot of experts out there that when you break down the law, that Barron must be deported also. There's a number of legal scholars that can make the case. Because if you look at the history of Melania, hey, let's look into it. Why not? Why not, y'all? When are we going to ask that question? When are we going to ask that question, America? Is that neighbor from Europe, from a European country, if birthright citizenship becomes what Trump says he wants to do, you answer the question, but you first got to ask it. All right, guys, as always, we say, take a deep breath, because guess what? You got to make your life count. We'll be back tomorrow.